Good morning. We begin in Washington, where President Donald Trump yesterday announced a major agreement with the pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca, aimed at lowering prescription drug prices for millions of Americans. Speaking from the Oval Office on Friday evening, the president unveiled a deal that he hailed as a landmark achievement in his administration's ongoing efforts to tackle healthcare costs. Under the terms of the agreement, the UK-based company will provide its medications to Medicaid recipients under a most favored nation pricing model. This guarantees that the US government will pay the lowest price available for these drugs among all developed countries, a key demand of the administration. For other consumers, AstraZeneca will offer many of its medications at heavily discounted rates through a new government website, TrumpRx.gov, which is slated to launch early next year. The deal also includes a significant economic component. AstraZeneca has pledged to invest $50 billion in drug manufacturing, research, and development within the United States. A major part of this investment will be a new facility in Charlottesville, Virginia. The project is expected to create approximately 3,600 jobs in the state. President Trump was joined for the announcement by AstraZeneca CEO Pascal Soriot, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, who praised the deal for its dual benefits of lowering healthcare costs and boosting the state's economy. The high cost of prescription drugs has been a persistent and bipartisan concern for years, and this agreement represents one of the most significant direct interventions by an administration to influence pharmaceutical pricing structures. From domestic policy to national security, the administration also announced a major new initiative aimed at combating drug trafficking in the Western Hemisphere. On Friday, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed the establishment of a new counter-narcotics joint task force in the Caribbean Sea. In a statement, Hegseth said the task force's mission is to crush the cartels, stop the poison, and keep America safe, adding that the message to traffickers is clear: if you traffic drugs toward our shores, we will stop you cold. The new unit is being launched at the direction of President Trump and will operate under the U.S. Southern Command, or SOUTHCOM, which oversees military operations in the Caribbean and Latin America. The Desheading Marine Expeditionary Force will form the core of the task force, which is designed to synchronize and enhance efforts to disrupt illicit trafficking networks. Admiral Alvin Holsey, the commander of SOUTHCOM, stated that transnational criminal organizations threaten the security and prosperity of the entire hemisphere. This announcement, however, comes amid growing controversy surrounding the administration's recent tactics in the region. The new task force is being established as the U.S. has conducted a series of lethal strikes against 4 small boats in the Caribbean over the last few months. The administration claims these boats were linked to drug trafficking networks. These strikes have resulted in the deaths of 21 people. The actions have alarmed some Democratic lawmakers who are demanding more information and transparency. They have raised concerns about the lack of detailed evidence presented to the public to justify the targeting of these specific boats and their passengers, questioning the legal framework for such lethal actions in international waters. While the administration takes new executive action on the seas, one of its long-standing policy goals is now heading for a legal showdown at the nation's highest court. House Republicans filed an amicus, or friend of the court, brief on Friday, urging the Supreme Court to support President Trump's attempts to place limits on birthright citizenship. The case centers on the administration's appeal of lower court rulings that have blocked its efforts to exclude the U.S.-born children of undocumented immigrants from the automatic guarantee of citizenship. The legal battle revolves around the interpretation of the 14th Amendment's Citizenship Clause, which reads, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States." For over a century, this has been widely interpreted to grant citizenship to nearly everyone born on U.S. soil. However, the Trump administration and its Republican allies in Congress argued that the phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" was not intended to apply to the children of parents who are in the country illegally, as they maintain a primary allegiance to a foreign nation. Lower federal courts have consistently rejected this argument, siding with the long-standing precedent. Now, with the Supreme Court having agreed to hear the administration's appeal, these new arguments from House Republicans set the stage for a landmark case that could fundamentally redefine one of the core tenets of American citizenship. Away from the White House and the Supreme Court, a prominent Democratic voice is turning a critical eye inward, arguing his own party has failed on a key issue of democratic governance. Jaime Harrison, the former chairman of the Democratic National Committee, published a post on the platform Substack arguing that Democrats missed the moment to enact meaningful redistricting reform. Harrison describes partisan gerrymandering, the practice of drawing legislative maps to favor one political party, as the singular cancer in our democracy. He contends that the practice allows politicians to pick their voters rather than the other way around. This results in the creation of non-competitive or safe districts for both parties, which in turn fuels political polarization. Harrison argues that when incumbents don't face a serious challenge in a general election, they have little incentive to compromise and are pushed to appeal only to the most ideological voters in their party's primary. In his critique, Harrison faults his own party for failing to pass national guardrails for redistricting when they held control of Congress and the White House. He specifically pointed to the failure to advance voting rights legislation, noting that a push to create an exception to the Senate filibuster for such a bill ultimately died in the chamber. To achieve what he calls durable change, Harrison is now urging a renewed push for federal standards that would mandate the use of independent, nonpartisan commissions to draw congressional district lines in every state. This, he argues, is the only way to remove the inherent conflict of interest that exists when partisan state legislatures are allowed to draw their own maps.